Right. It's a very first for you to speak to electronic media. So we do hope that the next 2 hours or so we'll be able to find out a lot about Benue State and what makes you tick.
Definitely.
Well, I'm not here alone on this special program, the media chat with the governor of Benue State. I'm here with my colleagues. Let me start off by introducing to my immediate right, Kayode Ladaide of TVC News. Kayode, good to have you here.
It's a pleasure. Good afternoon, Governor.
All right. Now we are also joined by Abdul Yusuf of Liberty TV. Abdul. Well, let me also introduce Grace Ichepa of NTA Makudi, that's the Nigerian Television Authority in Makudi. Grace.
It's nice to be here.
All right. And also here with us is Shegun James of This Day. Shegun.
It's good to be here, Your Excellency.
Right. Mr. Governor, as I said in my introduction, this is the very first for you. But there are certain things we'd like to put in place before we get into the state of Benue. And easily the first would be, you are a priest. And we look at the priest in politics, and not just a priest, a reverend father in politics and now in governance. So for us, let's start on the premise of how this transition took place. You moving on to politics and eventually being elected as governor. How was that move?
Well, thank you so much for the question. Come July 7th this year, I'll be 35 years as a priest. I've worked all my life, or most part of it, within the state, in the suburbs. I know the area, like the palm of my hand. I understand what our problems are, what the challenges in homes are, and the inability of our leadership previously to fix, to support, and to bring the changes. From the last station where I was before, there was an urgency for me to join the ranks in partisan politics. I was in charge of a proposed Catholic university in Vandika. In fact, it happened to be in my home local government, actually. But then I had to take leave of absence to come into the partisanship of politics. I think the transition wasn't quite difficult. We priests spend all our lives supporting people, trying to fix the immediate kind of environmental problem, familiar problems and all that. So it wasn't something so much difficult for me to understand what my roles in this new task would be. However, back in the church, we're not too accustomed to making so much noise, lying. If it is blue, it has to be blue. If it's red, you have to maintain that. But until I joined the political ranks, I discovered a number of things. But I understand the human psychic. Part of the very intensive and extensive studies I've made over time is human psychology. So I understand how that could play out. And then definitely when you are working with people in the suburbs, you must understand their orientation, know what they believe in, where they're coming from, and what can set them to a new pedestal. So having understood all those, and then as I came in, those are the actual principles we've been trying to do. Again, in the church, we try to apply the principle of subsidiarity. The principle of subsidiarity is very simple. I'll give you fish, teach you how to catch the fish. Then you begin catching the fish yourself. But over here, I attempted so much to do that, and it's something new. So there were kind of back and forth on acceptability. So majorly you are giving them fish. They just want to continue getting the fish handouts and, So, but overall, the transition was quite smooth. The experiences are quite enormous. And I'm looking forward to a number of chapters and textbooks, on such experiences.
Well, perhaps in the course of this conversation, we'll be able to unearth some of those things you talked about, which would pitch you against those who want to continually receive the fish and not learn how to fish. But at this point, let me set Coyote on it all.
Father, let's look at the uniqueness of Benue State. By the way, the whole Nigeria is watching this, so we want to believe that there are a lot of people who have been looking forward to this opportunity to really meet you, and I think you've done well by explaining the transition. But let's delve into Benue State, the uniqueness. When we talk about Benue, from primary school, we've been told this is the food basket of the nation, and we are not unaware of the challenge of insecurity. So how has it been? As much as this is my personal view, there's a lot of change in terms of positive, in terms of reduction in insecurity. But insecurity is still insecurity, even when a life is wasted or killed. So what has been the reality, and how are you addressing that?
Yeah, thanks for the question. Let me first of all build a context to this. Benue became independent since 76.
76, yeah.
A number of dynamics came to play. During the military administration, it was quite different. May 28th, in 1975, the ECOWAS came up with a proposal. And the proposal was suggestively saying that ECOWAS, West African countries, should try to see how they can absorb pastoralists crossing the borders for grazing. I think it kind of took Nigeria quite some time. But in 98, Nigeria adopted this. So Nigeria had now accepted the cross-border and the transhumans portfolio that was proposed in 75. By then the OAU, OAU came into being, I'm thinking, in 63.
60, yes.
Yeah, and then it lasted into 99. So all this while, it was only by 1998 that Nigeria adopted this. We had lived by this axis, even as a child growing up. We knew that we called them the traditional herders. During the summer area period, they could, and then there were routes as well. They could come past, wherever they were going. As children, we never knew. But then afterwards, and then they vanished. During the rainy season, they were no longer there until the dry seasons came in during the following year. So there wasn't any friction per se. But since after the adaptation in 1999, there was a very drastic change. I'm not sure a number of things were conceived for this protocol, the transhuman and the border crossing between goods and the humans by the ECOWAS borders were considered so much. If they were, I think they would require a revisiting. Here's the thing. We are 23 local governments in the state. As I speak now, about 17 local governments are housing the IDPs. We have a number of local governments up to now 9 that are in the front lines of the insecurities. As bad as this might sound, and as horrible it may sound, remember, we share a population of about 7 million. Over a quarter before I came into governance, It's even on the records, everywhere, even on the YouTubes and social media, it's out there. So before we came in, we heard, we saw, we were told that 1.5 million, people were in this bondage of the IDPs. And as at June last year, 2024, we recorded 500,000 people approximately, which speaks about over 870,000 families, that became displaced. How do we get the data? Before we came in, there was no data. Until we got in there through the assistance of the United Nations, then we got that established via the IOM. So it is a full recorded, deliberate data that was created. So this is what we have. Our people are primarily agrarian because this is the headquarters of the food zone. We were quite good. We were the first producers of yams in the world. It's on the record. We were #1 producers of soybeans. I think we recorded about #4 on sesame production. And then even on rice. On rice, before this time, we were feeding the northern Nigeria. And then most part of the eastern Nigeria as well. So we were quite good on what we were doing until the nomadism came into play. And then the pastoralists also had to source for the resources, the natural resources that now came to play. And I believe that there are a number of factors that may have even costs, so many things in here. Increase in population, so the routes are no longer there, now closed. And then talk about climate change, and a number of issues that come with such changes. So those may be the factor, but the UN standard and speak, those are the things that emerged, that pushed even the pastoralists for all the crises we are having between the farmers by axis and then the pastoralists. The challenges are there. With the traditionalists, traditional full herders, they only came with their cattle, at most 6, and then cutlasses, some machetes. But that is no longer the case. What we experience today, it's calculated, calibrated, planned, strategized, and then executed. And it has a number of things attached to this. It is not the usual form and frame we know. What happens now is, as they walk through, there is a planned destabilization. The locals are driven out via killings and then pushing away. And then for the mercenaries will come in first. They will attack, and once we cry, and then we are settled down, and then we put some measures in place. After a little while, then they show up again. And then by this time, we see lots of herds, and then with a number of human beings coming in just to occupy the places. So I think I wouldn't be wrong to say land grabbing, it's part of these challenges we have in this. So instead of producing all the food some more, a colleague and a brother of mine, the governor of Niger State, who is just coming into farming now, kind of teases me each time, we are together and talking over issues and comparing notes. That for the record, he wants me to know that Niger State is keeping the food, Benue State is keeping the basket, But I just tell him, well, although we have been vastly destabilized, we're still making a lot of efforts to going back to farming. Here's the thing. When the destabilization, the maiming, the land grabbing, the killings took place, we lost so much human lives and the land. And since there were no data, no plan, no strategy, it was quite challenging initially when we came in. This is why we had to seek some intervention from the United Nations for us to be able to know the numbers that are displaced, to be able to know the families that are affected, and then to know the number of the destructions and all that we have incurred. So having been able to assemble all the data, all the information now, we took a further step. We have now come up with a Benue State durable solution on the IDPs. And it is purported to fulfill three major roles. It talks about a number of factors. But one being that these people are displaced, they are brothers and sisters. What do? We still have to accept them, assimilate them, we share same culture and everything. So that is one. And then the second one again is the relocation. That is place they cannot just be hanging out there in vacuum. So we had to look for a short-term scheme for them, which is the IDP camps. So now the state hosts up to 14 camps, 14 IDP camps all over the state. And one of the third pivotal aim of the durable solution on IDPs is to get them back to their ancestral lands. So, just assuming you have a wound, and it's an old wound, and it's been infected, and the number of things are in there. And then, even if you are giving injection, one injection cannot just suffice. So it has to be a series of injections, and this is what we have been doing. And the federal government has been on this traverse with us as well, putting in their own efforts. Let me quickly call on the federal government even to go an extra mile. If the ECOWAS transhumans protocol is reversed, at least for Nigeria, would be in the best position. Meaning, if the federal government gets back there to tell ECOWAS, well, this was made on a friendly basis, with no evil intent and all that, but the opposite is the result. So let us now retreat. Let us see what we can do to fix, the internal insecurities we have before any other thing. I think that would be a very huge milestone for the federal government, and then also we, the subnationals, who are facing all the insecurities. Again, let it be on the record that it's not only Benue that has this, a number of places. But again, what we have noticed, a lot of the attacks are in the northeast, quite all right, and then the north central, for some reason, is spreading to other ends of the subnationals as well. The entire north central has so much. I think it is even becoming even more convoluted, in the sense that, take Benue for instance, we have a lot of natural resources. We have the land, we have the water, we have the gold, we have the lithium, you name them, we have the uranium, we have everything. So instead of the blessings we have becoming a curse, I think as teaching time saves 9. So if the federal government moves and some steps forward to do this, the national internal security, believe me, would also be fixed. Ours, there's no question about that, will be fixed.
Just before Abdul comes in, Mr. Governor, what you have just said is suggestive that the bulk of the pastoralists are from neighboring countries and may not be directly indigenous.
No. There's no question about that. This is a fact. And the, you see, we share borders here. Most part of one of our local governments in Kwandi shares border with Cameroon, very porous borders. Then internally we also share borders with Taraba, Nasarawa. Nasarawa is quite vast as well. Kogi, Enugu, Ebonyi, Cross River. So, but where we have a number of incessant, persistent, and continuous attacks is from this axis. So have they find their way all through to get into us? You know, it's also indicative of the porousness of our borders. But we're Nigerians. We know our faces. We know our faces. You know, we share same features. We understand all this. So when we see those who are mercenaries, those who are fighters, those who look very different from the associated headers we know, we understand that.
As governor, you've been named is 25, meaning you pay on the 25 of every month. Something that looks impossible before you came. What's the magic, and do you think this is sustainable to the end of your tenure?
Thanks much for this question. If my cronies tell you that my administration is being fought left, right, center, that is one of the reasons. Mr. 25. And by the way, it's not just 25. We have shifted the decimal between 22nd and 23rd because I want my folks in here to plan ahead and to plan well. I hate it. My father was also a civil servant and then a teacher. So they had a lot of wiggle rooms in their planning. Unlike before May 29th, 23, you know, salaries were not paid, pensioners were never paid, entitlements were never given, and a lot of other excuses that were given, that federal government was no longer doing her own part of sending in some support, financial support. But when I came in, that wasn't what I discovered. By the way, I had inherited 359 billion naira at my advent into governance. So when we took a deeper look into the books, we now realize that the federal government gave their subventions, you know, their support and everything. But just along the line between Abuja and Makedi, a number of things happened that the money could not reach the poor teachers, to the poor civil servants, and then to the pensioners and all that. But I think the dynamic is very easy. We have come in with a new thinking for the state. And I believe that a new Benue, it's possible to be created. And this is where we are. It only deals with proper planning, proper strategy, proper monitoring, proper execution and monitoring. And this is what we've been trying to do. We ensure that our civil servants get their money early enough. If in between those dates there is a public holiday or they fall on the weekend, whether it's a Sunday, they're simply sure of getting their money on that Sunday. So this has come to be, and believe me, it has come to stay. We have come to set a standard. We have come to set a standard. And the Benue people have now seen the differences. If there was no money, how come all of a sudden Father Alia came in with money? You know, initially when we began the payment and then the conduction and execution of projects, they said Rome, the Vatican City, was sponsoring me so that, you know, the state would come out from shame and all that. No, but that is not a fact. it was due, and it is due to the support from the federal government, the normal thing that is being done to every other governor. I believe that in the church, since we don't have money, we pinch the penny. So this is the newness again that I've brought into the system, pinching the penny, which again has created so many enemies, on my head, because they're only used to taking the fish and they don't want to learn catching the fish themselves. And who are those group of people? Some sizable number of the elites. To the rest of the folks in the state, is something new, is something very welcoming, is something they had prayed for, and is something they are experiencing. So believe me, as I'm sitting here now, we would be able, if a need arises, this is April, I'll be able to pay the salaries even in June, because we have prepped ourselves up on this. Planning, good thinking, the strategy, and then the right people, the right apparatuses to execute. And that is all we do. Then the monitoring. So it's come to stay.
His Excellency, since your assumption of office, you have embarked on numerous projects. And one that is really that you are really keen about is ensuring that the citizens have access to potable water supply, which you have last 2 weeks paid counterpart funding to revive the Otobi water works and the Hyacinth Alia water works. But the issue here now, the state needs to be reticulated. A lot of pipelines have been vandalized, especially in the rural areas. I paid a visit to Otukpo last week, and so many of the residents were complaining that the pipelines that were running supplying water have been vandalized. Within Makudi town here, a lot of broken pipes. If this water works begin to function properly, how will the people enjoy this water supply? More so that in previous administrations, they have complained that reticulation of the town is capital intensive. How do you intend to go about it?
Before now, payment of salary was capital intensive. So everything in the state was so named. Again, talks about the strategy, the planning, the focus, and then the willpower to ensure that it is done. Is it my administration that brought in the contractors on the Otobi, Otukpo, Hyacinth Alia waterworks? The answer is no. In fact, the previous administration owed them so much, millions and millions of money. But we came in, we had to settle that. In strategizing, people, if you want to introduce someone into something new, as we are doing, you first of all have to do the education. Then you get into the field to let them understand what the issues are before you start bringing the newness of it. Water should be fetching a lot of economy, a lot of money, even for the state. But unfortunately, we haven't gotten there. Here's what we have done. I don't know when you came to town, but I so wish you had held some conversations even with the commissioners and a number of other people. The commissioner for Waterworks and Environment will even tell you that as I am speaking here, there are contractors who are already going about the urban areas to do a feasibility study to see how damaged are those. And unfortunately, the water reticulation, it's even was bad in Makurdi here. So it's like Chinua Achebe saying water everywhere, but not even a drop to drink. We have the river right behind us here, and then people are not getting water. So that became quite unacceptable to us. The water, they call it the Great Waterworks of Otobi, Otukpo, Hyacinth Alia, then Yande, Boko, Buruku, Yande, Boko, are quite capital intensive. But it is a must that we will do. But first of all, we still have to supply water to people, no matter which frame it will come. Because like Otukpo doesn't have water at all. So if we wait on the side to say, let us bring in the contractors, first of all, to do the reticulation before we give them water, just imagine what my name would become. So we first of all have to do the parchment. So, but putting the bandage on this water wound, it's not the answer. So we're still exploring. As I speak here, that people in the fields, right even in Makurdi here, doing the study work. So we first of all need to get this frame. One unfortunate thing we have experienced in the state is the lack of data. It's nada, zero, nothing at all. So when you are talking about reticulation, no one understands it. No one understands the water pathways that Aperiku did. You know, and Aperiku did enormous works. You know, had opened up companies for us. Every large establishment you find in the state was his own initiative, and then Father Adasu. But all these are like moribund. Let me not get deep into your space. You may have a question on that as well, so let me just keep that. But we are already on this waterworks. There is emergency for now to have that water fixed for the Otukpo people. So, and the only way to do that was to do the short term first, and then the long term, it's already on the way.
Your Excellency, let's go into politics, because now yes, you are into politics full time, and I'm sure you are experiencing a lot of politics against you. For example, second time is already on the way, and people are talking about that, and you are having problem within your party in the state with the former chairman of the party, and secondly with the judiciary. It is said that you are having problem with the judiciary because their workers are on strike. Sir, with 2027 already in the corner, how do you solve this problem of, one, your relationship with your party and your relationship with the judiciary?
Thank you so very much. Let me begin with the judiciary. We don't have any anxieties with the judiciary, for the record. We don't at all. There was a requisition for the removal of the 7 CJ, or the law permits that I sign. I haven't signed anything. But then there is a protocol to all this. It has to go through the NJC and all that. So it was an honor on me to transfer whatever anxieties that the CJ had created within the system in the state to the NJC, and we have done that. So the NJC is the master handling everything. That is their own area. So for the record, we don't have any anxieties at all with the judiciary. I think part of the angst on the CJ was for him to call for the judiciary workers to go on strike. You know, recently we just upgraded our salary scheme. You know, instead of 70 minimum, we went to 75. And the workers are quite excited about that and happy. What the judiciary, the first time I came into administration, I granted them independence. I granted autonomy also to the local governments. So it's already in practice before the official local government autonomy now came. We were already on the practice. The judiciary was already on her own, doing their own stuff, doing their own macro and micro management of whatever resources. And the divide was just made in a way that I know what it is, the headman gets a lot of change in there. So instead of him fixing what he started as an anxiety, he now shifted to us. So if you ask members of the judiciary, they will explain that to you. I even picked this up from them. But this information I've now let out is the first time coming from me, but that is a fact because the records are there. So it is not even an anxiety. He was now calling on some documentation for increment. If any salaries were increased in the state, you know, the establishment should also have theirs very separate, you know, and all that. Asked the labor group in the state, the teachers union, the transport workers and everything. So we don't have anxieties with them. We don't have anxieties with civil servants. We don't have any with the Teachers Association at our universities. We don't. And our tertiary schools. We don't. So we don't have any in the local government. And rather, since I came in, nobody is being owed. No lecturer, no professor is being owed at BSU, at the Benue State University. We spend over 1 billion naira to clear everything, their backlogs that were left in there. So, and this is why you cannot hear anything strike, you know, from their lips. So we are at par and they're doing their own bit for the growth of this state. So this is a fact. Now, politically, I want to establish that when newness comes, there are certain people who are feeding on unapportioned largesse. And when you now try to say it should not be a handful of people, the largesse, so-called, should go to the common masses. In fact, you expect a fight back. It's like you're fighting corruption. It fights back and bites hard. So this is the experience in here. There are some people within the political ranks of ours in the state here who feel that there should be no projects. Salary should not be paid. Pension should never be paid. Hospitals should never be fixed. Schools should be left unfixed. But then once we get the FAQ accounts, go submit, and then you tell them, sir, here it is. Then they take what they want and then give the rest to you, say, go manage with the state what you can. There are too many things at stake. Immoral study, there is an evil, and then there is, call it a small one. These are options. They can still be evils, but it is an option that serves the majority of the people. So you now settle for the lesser evil. All of us here are receivers. All of you are receivers. Us, everybody in this hall is a receiver. We don't own our lives. We don't. Our parents gave birth to us. They gave us names. They had a plan for all of us. And then along the line, we grew up, and then we saw the differences of what they were doing. And what must behove on us is to try to do better than they did, to live more improved than they lived. So, and then, if you understand the geography of the state, our people are farmers. They love their farming. As long as they have food, the requests to the state government is very minimal. You give them good roads that lead to the local markets and to their own farms. bring markets for them, for their produce, fix their schools for their own children, give them the necessities that are required there. And this is why we have embarked on this huge project of water supply, doing boreholes in most places of the town. But the majority of it being what we even spoke about here, the greater water works in the state. But when you come into governance, which is a social contract between you, God, and the people, and you fail God, and then you fail the people, so what are you left with? So if you have those two options, I think the lesser evil is the best option for you to take. Which means if people had voted us in, they trusted us, they believed us, and if we say we give them water and give them light and provide roads, they believe me. I'd been out there all my life. Apart from the period I went to school, spent 15 years out there and then got back again, and I'm still working. Again, I'll be 35 years as a priest. I know what their problems are. So I still feel that we have a robust affiliation. There are a few very handful people who feel aggrieved because the fact it's no longer given them, because salaries are being paid, because human capacity is being developed, because there's light on the streets of the township. Already as I'm speaking here, we have even awarded roads amounting to 337 kilometers within the states. 337 kilometers. So if you had moved out in the suburbs, you see a lot of work going on, beginning within the town. So we have even turned the capital city here a work site. So am I the first governor just to come in and now begin the road work, and now begin to put street lights? No, I'm not. So there are a series of works to be done. So, and if we now sign this contract, with the people, and we do not do it, there's something called conscience. At the end of it all, remember, this is a tripartite contract that is signed. God, the people, and myself.
Especially your conscience.
Yeah, so if I'm in there and I'm feeding the frenzy of a very handful people, it doesn't make common sense. So I don't want people to lose their religion. I don't want people to stop going to church. I don't want people to stop, to still continue tagging politicians or politics a bad game. This is why I came into politics. Ordinarily, I'm a priest. I would have said, oh no, I'm comfortable with my poor people out there in my local station. But the outcry, was too much. And then there was a direction that came out and set my people free. So now that I've come out, if I'm not fulfilling that, why am I in? So this is why we have embarked on so much, a number of projects. And this is why we're clearing, we're taking care of the salaries of the patient, of all the entitlements. If you retire now and at the end of the month, you get everything you have to pack home with. So, and there's nothing wrong with that. So we have to improve people's lives. At the end of the day, I will not be stuck with a very handful people. I will be stuck with the people, the masses, and the guy upstairs, God.
Sir, as a follow-up to that, we know that 2027 are around the corner. We want you to talk about your ambition for a second term and how your relationship with these political godfathers, so to say, will affect your your chances. And there's also the story that you are contemplating moving to SDP with some other politicians. How true is this?
It is fake. It is untrue. It is fashioned by those who do not know their left or their right. It is calibrated by those who do not want progress. It is executed by the talk, by those who feel the state should go down the dungeon. But unfortunately, that is not the wish of the people. I am the governor of Benue State. We struggled. We convinced people. Remember, we ran on a Muslim presidential ticket. So there were so many dynamics that came to play. I didn't just come into politics. I came into partisan politics with a huge movement. So if you hear yes, father, was and still, it's a very laudable, formidable, strong movement. And this is what put me out there, you know, in this rulership. So as a governor of the state and as the leader of APC in Benue State, how stupid am I for anyone even to tell you that I'm leaving APC to go to elsewhere? Am I destined for what they are thinking? The answer is no. So I ain't going anywhere, for the record. I'm in the leadership to give a direction, to support people to be on their own, to establish the economy, to let newness of life come into the state, to let people understand the pivotal importance of agriculture, which is what you are doing, to create roads for them. Other administrations did not do, the immediate did not do, the previous did the little they could. So this is where we are. So I think I should be smarter than that. For the 2027, it's not mine to say, again, it's for the people. But I wish, as you came to town, you went around to find out from them what they're thinking. But what I'm thinking is, by May, I will be just 2 years, and I have 6 years more to go as a governor of Benue State. Yeah, 6 more years.
Okay,
and how is that defined?
Well,
by their fruits you shall know them. So the people are telling me that, yes, they are not only seeing the fruits, they are plucking and feeding on the fruits. And that is what we intend to continue with.
Let's do a little bit on politics. Since we've done the mathematics, and easily it's clear what you're saying, what you have said without saying it. Okay. But then, how do you respond to reports? And now speaking strictly about politics, which of course they are influential politicians, Benue has produced a lot of them. How do you respond to the reported impasse between you and some very top politicians within your own party, and specifically even with the SGF? How do you respond to such reports?
As a leader of the party in the state, I don't have any challenges with the SGF. He was the governor of the state. He was a senator representing Zone B. He served as a minister and is currently serving as an SGF. He's our great statesman in the state. And I uphold that. And I give him that respect still. So if there are any fights between him and myself, he's here to spell them out. Is there a Cold War? We were invited by the Totiv, the paramount leader, His Royal Majesty, Professor Otis or James Ayate, CFR, to intervene on what he was hearing and the kind of a Cold War that was existing between the governor and the SGF. And if you go back towards the clip, The SGF himself told the whole world and the TIV people and Benue people that if there were a number of things he was doing that were not right, he was going to fix them. So I want to assume that those things are fixed, but I can't point any fingers on any reservation or any anxiety that is being created in there. But when the TOTIV called us, this was it. With the former chairman of the party, Austin Nagada, his time had expired. We needed new blood in the system. So he was ushered out, and the new blood came in. And the new blood is bringing the transformation we had prayed for and had sought. And this was not just done, it wasn't done by me, but by the National Working Committee of the APC at our headquarters in Abuja. So, and it was a transparent system, and of late it's been given a letter of continuum in its own portfolio. So there is a lot of work we're doing, but granted, this is politics. There might be one skirmishes out there, people have unspoken expectations. I cannot rule those out. So when they let us know, we will try to bridge them up. Would there be some group of people? Yeah, he was a party chairman. Definitely he has his own cronies. We keep extending the olive branch to him and to them. Let them come back and let us all join forces. This is the only state we call Benue, and our home state. So let them come back, join forces with us, and the train is moving. We'll all just fuel it some more to move even some more.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Governor. But at this point, we'll take a short break. This is just a brief break we'll take. We'll return with other issues pertaining to the state of Benue in 5 minutes. Stay with us.
The Inspector General of Police has met with senior officers to review the state of security.
We are continuing our coverage of the arrest of Godwin Emefiele.